All right, so we are dealing with an LG front load washer that is giving us the OE error code. And so as you can see, that error code is going to appear right here on the user interface board. It's going to blink off and on. And this error code means that your washer is having problems draining. So once your washer starts draining, it's set to a timer. The machine gives it 6 minutes for it to be able to drain out all the water properly from the tub. If your washer can't successfully drain all the water out in that 6-minute time period, then the machine will stop running and it'll give you this code. There are going to be 3 main reasons that cause your washer not to be able to drain. And I'm going to run you through each one of those to help you diagnose your machine and then how to repair it. So the first thing you want to do is you're going to want to come and look down here where this little door is. You want to go ahead and pop that off. And if you take a look in here, you can see this right here is where your filter is. Now yours probably doesn't look just like this. Whoever had this machine previously, it looks like they messed with the drain pump and the filter and they did not put it back in the right place. This should actually be sitting closer towards us, a little bit more accessible. And also there's a drain hose that runs from the back of this filter out through this hole towards us right here. And we currently can't see that. So the first thing that you're going to want to check when your washer isn't draining and giving you that code is the filter. You want to make sure that it's not clogged. Now, I do want to reiterate before we start messing with anything down here. If your washer is full of water, as soon as you start opening this, all the water from your machine is going to come pouring out onto the floor. So what you want to do is, like I said, there's a hose and it should be sticking out right from here on your machine, and it has a cap on the end of it. And so if you want to get that water out, all you have to do, you'll just pull this cap off like this, and you can pour it out into a bowl or a cup. Now, depending on how much water you have in your machine, this is going to be a little bit of a process and it's going to take some time. So this washer is currently full of water and I don't have the drain hose right here. So as soon as I start to turn the cap for the filter, all the water is going to come pouring out. So you turn this counterclockwise and pull it all the way out. And this is the filter for your drain pump. And as you can see, it just catches anything that's not supposed to end up in your washer. A lot of times it'll catch clumps of hair and stuff like that, especially if you have pets that shed a lot. But there's not really anything in here. So if yours was clogged up, then that's probably the reason that your washer couldn't drain, because the water has to pass through the filter to go out the back of the machine. So once you get it unclogged and pop it back in, you should be good to go. Now, if you pulled yours out and it's relatively clean like this one, doesn't look like there's a bunch of stuff in there, then chances are that you have a bad drain pump motor. And as I stated before, there's really only 3 things that are going to cause your washer to not drain and give you that OE error code. The first is going to be a clogged filter. Second is going to be a bad drain pump motor. And then the third thing would be a clogged drain hose. Now, I will say that a clogged drain hose is very, very rare. I almost never see it. So the chances of that being your issue is probably next to none. And so of the 3, I usually recommend checking the filter first, replacing the drain pump second. And if neither one of those things fixes your problem, then moving on to replacing your drain hose. But again, if your filter isn't clogged, then it's a pretty good chance that you just have a bad drain pump. And I'm going to go ahead and run you through exactly how to replace that now. First, you want to go ahead and power off your machine and make sure that it's unplugged before you start to take it apart. You want to come to the back of the machine and look for these 2 plastic tabs right here. And there are 4 screws total that hold these in place, 2 on this one and 2 on this one. There's a screw on the top and a screw on the bottom on both sides. You want to remove the screw that is on the bottom on both of these. Then you just want to come back to the front of the machine and grab the lid, push it back a few inches, and you can pop it right off. You want to take your detergent dispenser out, and it'll have a little button right here that you want to press in, and then it'll slide out. You want to remove these 2 screws right here. And then on the back of the user interface board, there's going to be a screw right here that you want to take out. And then back down here where the filter was, there is a screw right here. Once you've got that off, you can pop this plastic piece out, and there's another screw right there. Now we want to remove this user interface board. And what you want to do is you want to just take the tips of your fingers and grab the top of the board and see if you can just kind of peel the top back a little bit. And sometimes it'll come right off. Other times like this, it'll be stubborn. If it's stubborn, then you can just take a flathead screwdriver and you want to get up underneath the board right here and then just work this all the way across until it pops off like that. And then you can take it off and you've got two options. So you can either come over the top right here and disconnect all these clips and remove the user interface board completely. Or what I usually do is just take this and set it up on top out of the way. Go ahead and open up the door, and we want to remove the spring that holds the boot seal in place right here. And so there's a little crevice on the back of this boot seal, and if you peel it back, you can see the metal ring. And the easiest way to get it off is just take a flathead screwdriver, stick it up underneath there, pull it out towards you, and it'll pop off just like that. And then we want to remove this front panel, and to do that, we're just going to take the screws that hold it in place out, and this one has 6, 3 over here and 3 over here. These are Phillips head screws, and so usually they'll just come out with a Phillips bit, but sometimes they can be just really stuck on there, and if they won't come out with that bit, then it'll just strip it. So what you can do is you can use a 7mm hex nut with an extension, and it'll get them off with no problem. And then you just want to work this boot seal back through the hole in the door and let it kind of lean towards you. And then if you look over the top right here, you've got a wire harness that runs to your door switch. You just want to disconnect that wire harness. You want to, there's a little tab on the bottom of it. You'll just push that tab in and pull down on it. Once you got that disconnected, you can go ahead and just take your door off completely. So your drain pump assembly is down here on the bottom left hand side, and to make it a little bit easier to access it, we want to remove this counterweight that's on the bottom right here. It has 4 screws that hold it in place, and you want to use a 10mm hex nut to take them off. Now this machine actually has 2 pumps on it. The one on the left over here is going to be the actual drain pump, and the one on the right over here is a circulation pump. You can see that it's got these 2 hoses running off of it on this side, and those hoses come up the sides of the machines, and they spray water in on the sides through the boot seal into the tub. So if your washer isn't draining, you're not going to have to worry about this one over here. It's going to be this one right here. You can replace this drain pump without pulling the entire assembly out, but so that I can make it a little bit easier to show you exactly what's going on and everything that we're doing, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect all of these hoses, all of the wires that are running to it, so that I can go ahead and take it out completely. All right, now that I've got all the wires and the hoses disconnected, we'll take a look down in here. You can see that there are 3 bolts that hold this metal bracket for the drain pump assembly in place. There's going to be one right here, one right here, and then there's one on the back side right there. And again, you're going to use the 10mm nut driver to take those out. And once you have those all unscrewed, this whole thing will just pop right out. So we're going to face this towards us just like it would be if we were looking at it from the front of the machine. Again, this one on the left hand side is going to be your drain pump, and we want to remove it by unscrewing the screws that hold it in place. Now, this is not an OEM pump. This is an aftermarket pump that somebody else put on here. Yours should only have a total of 3 screws, usually one right here, and then one over here on the back side. Whoever put this in put a few extra screws in, so we're going to remove those. But before we do that, we're going to do one more step to make this easier to take off. If you try to just unscrew all these, your old pump will pop off really easily, but when you go to put the new one on, it's going to be tricky because of this bracket right here. So come to the front, and you want to remove this screw right here. And then this will just come right off. Now we have better access to it. We can just take all the screws that are holding the pump in place out. Once you've unscrewed it, the pump will just come right off like that. Now that we've separated it, take a little bit closer look at it, and you can see clearly this pump has fallen completely apart. This is supposed to sit on here like this, and this is supposed to spin and pump the water out. Now, I've done this long enough that I can tell just by looking at it that this is an aftermarket one that someone went on Amazon and purchased. Now, if you go on Amazon and you type in LG washer drain pump, you're going to get a ton of listings where some of them are going to look like this. Most of them are going to look like this. I have bought from many, many sellers, and I have spent lots of time and lots of money trying to figure out what is the best possible replacement. And the problem with all of these is that they are made really poorly, and it's very hard to find a good quality aftermarket part. And like I said, so if you go on there and you just type that in, it's going to pull up the ones that look like this. You're pretty much wasting your money. They only run about $15 to $20, but they're so bad. So what will usually happen is either the seal, which is right here, won't be an exact fit. So you'll put it on and you'll get it all back together. It'll start leaking immediately, or you'll put it on and it'll make a loud grinding noise. Or in some cases, you might get one that you pop on there and it sounds perfectly good. It doesn't leak, but it's going to crap out on you in a month or two. And mostly it has to do with the quality of this plastic propeller right here. And this design, for whatever reason, just really isn't good. Now, the OEM ones from LG are decent. And if you really wanted to go OEM, then I would recommend only buying direct from LG. You're going to go on eBay, Amazon, a lot of other places online that are going to say that they're OEM, but they're not. And the only way to know for sure that you are in fact getting an OEM part is to buy direct from LG. But it's going to be significantly more expensive. Like I said, I spent a lot of years doing this. I have done hundreds of drain pump replacements. And what I have found is this one right here is far, far superior to anything else that you're going to find on Amazon. This is an aftermarket pump. This is actually made for Frigidaire dishwashers, but it works perfectly for your LG machine. You can see that it is shaped a little bit different, but a couple of things to note. The seals on here, I have never had a seal leak, and the propeller on here is slightly different design than this, and it's a much thicker, higher grade quality plastic than this kind over here. These are super, super quiet. I've never had an issue with a customer contacting me after I've installed one, telling me that they had a problem with it. So again, my recommendation for you would be to not go with something like this and definitely go with this one. I can almost guarantee you that you'll be really happy with this. These run about $20 on Amazon, and I'll put a link for it in the description. All right, so now that I'm done with my little rant about these pumps, we're gonna go ahead and put this one back on. Now, I don't think that there's any 100% right way that this has to go back on, but what I found is the best way for me that works to put it on is you want to line this part straight up and down with this one, and then tilt it ever so slightly towards the back, just like this. And you want this hole to line up with this hole right here. And then you just push it on where it's nice and tight, and we'll screw it back in. And again, you don't need all those extra screws. You need 3 screws total. 1 to go here, 1 to go down here, and 1 on this side over here. And so when you're finished, it'll look just like that. Like I said, this flat part right here will be angled towards the back just a little bit. And you just want to make sure before you reinstall it to inspect where the pump meets this part right here and make sure that there are no gaps. And if there are, it just means that you don't have these screws screwed in all the way. You want to make absolutely sure that they're screwed in until they can't be screwed in anymore. And once you've done that, you just want to re-secure this to the bracket. You'll face the bracket towards you with this part towards the front, and this will just go in here like this. You'll line that up with the hole, screw it back in, and then the 2 underneath. Now that we got that back on there, we can go ahead and reinstall it back on our machine, and we'll be good to go. Now when we go to set that pump back in here, you just want to line the screws up with where they would go right along in here. This is that drain hose I was telling you about. You want to work it through this hole right here in the front. And then we'll screw this back in. When you're putting your door back on, don't forget to come over the top and plug your door switch back in. All right, now that we've got it all put back together, last thing we want to do is get the boot seal back on. And all you're going to do is just pull it through the door a little bit. And then there's a metal lip that goes all the way around. And what you want to do is you want to take the tips of your fingers and you want to grab your boot seal and just work the end of it over that metal lip all the way around. And then once you think that you've got it on there pretty good, just double check it. Take your fingertips and run it all the way around and make sure that it's nice and flush. Now to put this on, I just use a pair of needle nose pliers, but they do sell a special tool. It's a tub spring tool. Basically what it does is it grabs both ends of the spring, and when you squeeze it, it opens it up so that it spreads it and makes this easier to put on. I'll put a link for it in the description if you want to use something like that. But again, like I said, I just use a pair of needle nose pliers. And what I'll do is you want your spring to end up right in the middle at the bottom. So I'll offset it just right of center and then work this ring back into the groove and get about half of it on. And then I'll take my needle nose pliers and grab the left side of the spring. And then I'm going to use the weight of my body to pull on the spring as I use my left hand to work the ring in the rest of the way around. And then again, once you think you got it on there, just run your fingers all the way around and make sure that it's not poking out anywhere. Okay, so we've got it all put back together. I'm going to power it on and put some water in it, and then we're going to try to drain it out and see if that fixes our problem. All right, so we've got a bunch of water in there, and now I'm going to try to drain it out. All right, I've got it on the drain cycle, and I can hear the water coming out. If you check over here, there you go. You can see that water's coming out. It is now back to draining properly. And again, like I said, the majority of the time, if you get that OE error code right there, it's going to be because you have a bad drain pump. But if you have checked your filter, it wasn't clogged, you've changed out the drain pump, and it still isn't pumping the water out, then the next thing that you would want to do is replace your drain hose, because the chances are that you have a clog somewhere in there. And so I actually have another video showing how to replace the drain hose, and I'll put a link for that video in the description as well. All right, so I've had this machine running for about 30 minutes now, and everything seems to be working exactly the way it should. The pump has already pumped the water out once. Hopefully yours is doing the same as well. And as always, if you have any questions about anything that I covered, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I'll do my best to help you out. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video, and thank you for all your support. We'll catch you next time.